Free agency is upon us, guys, and day one is officially over. So, myself and Jaden are going to jump in and give an analysis on the day one action and what each team did today, including some re-signs. So, not all free agency stuff, but um, just basically whatever happened today. And I guess we'll start with the Ducks, Jaden. Only one signing, but a big one in Mikael Granlund.
Yeah, 3 years, 7 mil. Not bad for a 33-year-old. Not too long that it's going to age. So honestly, pretty well done. And Anaheim will the cap space. Probably not going to be under the cap. That's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, I don't think he kind of gets this deal anywhere else.
Yeah,
In my opinion, I think the only other place he could have got this deal was San Jose. And is he really going to
yeah,
return to the team that traded him out last season? So, yeah, look, good deal for Granlund. 3-year contract with the Ducks. I don't, like you said, I don't think it hurts them
yeah,
financially. I think they can afford to overpay for Granlund. Um, and yeah, look, if he keeps putting up the production that he did last season for San Jose and then obviously Dallas, yeah, they'll have no issues paying him 7 million for those 3 years. Yeah, so I think that's a great pickup for the Ducks, and could we see them in the wild card hunt?
Hmm. All right, moving on to Boston. Not too much to talk about here, even though they've got a lot of signings. Just a lot of depth and small signings. But the key ones here: Michael Eismont, 2 years by 1.45. You got Sean Curley, 2 years, 1.85. Then Tanner Janot, the big one at 3.4 by 5. Um, the famous one that's Tampa traded a whole draft pick for. So, and they
Whole
get
draft board.
and they get him for they get him for free in a sense.
Yeah,
Yeah. So not too much to say there. A lot of depth. That's basically what Boston have to do. So not too much really to say on that part there. And I guess I'll
yeah,
hand off to you with Buffalo.
yeah. So look, Buffalo. Again, not too many big moves. And no real free agent moves in a sense. The only one coming through, Ryan McLeod, was obviously re-signed for 5 million over the 4 years, which you could say is a little bit of an overpay. But at this point, I think Buffalo kind of need to
They have
to
to
try and
overpay, yeah.
yeah. I mean, he had a really good season last year, like 53 points in 79 games. So if he keeps on that sort of trajectory, then obviously it's probably a really good deal. It's just you're coming off of one sample size basically of him performing at that level. So it's probably a deal that we have to come back and visit end of this year, end of next year to see whether or not that's really panning out. If he can keep that momentum, he is only 25. So ultimately, it could end up being a steal of a contract, or if he returns to his form prior to being at Buffalo, it could really be a bit of an overpay, but not a terrible contract at all. And with what's going on in Buffalo, they've just got to be happy that they're able to keep players at this point. Um, and then obviously Justin Danforth at 2 years by 1.8 mil is the other big one. Just a bit of a depth piece there. Not a bad signing at all. So yeah, outside of that though, not too much else. They obviously get Alex Ryan as goaltending backup. 2 years at 1.5. But Alex Lyon is what he is. He's probably a third string goalie. So
Yep.
yeah,
All right. On to Calgary. You got basically just Joe Hanley here, 1.75 by 2. 34-year-old extension. Defenseman. Not too much else to say for Calgary, so I guess we can move on to Carolina.
yeah,
Um,
very very small window there. Hey, for Calgary, not too active.
yeah, it's kind
But
of a
you don't
shame.
mind that.
You expect more in regards to what they have to do to get to where they want, but
Mm,
sometimes not building through free agency is the way.
yeah,
So on to Carolina. Obviously, they did the Kendra Miller trade, but we're just doing signings here. You got Stan Coven here, 6 million over 8 years. He's 22 years old. Right wing center. Nice extension. Get him for good term. That could pan out pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's going to be interesting. Had a bit of a down season with Dallas, only the 29 points before he was moved on, but you can see the potential in him, and that's obviously where it came from. Being 22 years old, they expect that will just continue to pick up, and he had a fantastic playoffs. That's probably where a lot of that money comes from, is his form in the playoffs. So yeah, not too bad of a deal that I think over the course of the 8 years. I think it'll be a steal of a contract by the end of it.
Yeah. And then on to
Um,
Chicago. Basically no one.
uh,
Tornado.
what do we do? Some crickets? Have a tumbleweed just go past? Nah, that's what you expect from Chicago, though, right? In free agency, right? They don't need to be doing anything too stupid. They've got prospects that they've got to continue to develop. They don't need to be going out and spending stupid money on any key free agents right now. They're not in the window, so I don't mind that from Chicago.
Yep. On to Colorado, four signings. The major one there was Parker Kelly, 1.7 million by four. That's an extension. Can play pretty much any position. Good depth piece and fits pretty well at Colorado. So I don't mind the extension there. But that's pretty much all that's Colorado did.
Yeah, and then going on to Columbus, I mean, they had not too much from them either. Although I didn't really expect them to do too much. They had a fantastic season last season, obviously almost making the playoffs. So I don't feel like they needed to make a rash decision and go spend stupid money on free agents. So I like this, but they obviously sign Isaac Lundstrom to a 2-year, $1.3 million contract, which is just a bit of depth, to their forward. So yeah, I like that from Columbus. I think that's a move, not overplaying their hand, not spending too much, and just adding to their depth.
Yep. On to Dallas. Pretty much the one to talk about here, and that is Faxa. He had 3 years, 2 million. He's 31 years old. It's just another depth piece, and I guess that's what Dallas needs is on the cheaper side of depth pieces just to get over the hump when the big
And they
names
know
aren't
what he
showing
brings.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, and they know what he brings, being a ex-Dallas player only 2 seasons ago. So, yeah, I feel like that's a familiar face that they're bringing back.
All right, Detroit. Pretty much like the other ones, not too much to say here. They did get James Van Riemsdyk for 1 year at 1 million. You know what you're getting with him. He's 36, so you pretty much know what you're getting there. And
I
then
don't mind that trade. I don't mind that signing though,
oh, it's
man. Like,
no risk, all reward
no
really.
risk. 1 million. If he's terrible, you can bury him. He put up 36 points last year, 38 points the year before, 30 points the year before that. Like, you know what you're gonna get from James Van Riemsdyk, and at 1 million, pretty solid.
Hmm. Edmonton, pretty much just the one signing here to note. Mangiapane, my God, I cannot speak. 2 years by 3.6. 29 years old, so honestly, for a 29-year-old, pretty low on regards to term. But he does get a little bit of a chunk of change, and look, it's interesting his little route to get there on the teams he's gone through. But what do you reckon of that one?
Oh, look, it's going to be interesting. I think he had a lesser role at Washington than he did at Calgary, and that sort of affected his production. But I still think he's a really, really good player. And obviously, when you're putting someone in that Oilers team, I mean, we've had this conversation many times, but there's almost like a points multiplier that gets applied to people who go to the Oilers. So I think he's a great player. It's a good pickup for a reasonable cap hit. I think
Depth
yeah,
depth
if he
scorer, which is what they needed. That's
depth scorer, he's gonna get you like 15 goals and if he gets to play any time with either Drysdale or McDavid, you could probably up that to 20, 25 goals, to be honest.
mm,
So yeah, look, I would be interested to see how it goes, but I think that's just one of those things that they're moving on. Arvidsson and a couple others. So bringing in a player like Mangiapane sort of makes sense. So
All right, on to Florida. Not much to really talk about here. It's all depth, and that's because they've spent all their money signing people they already had in the team.
already had. Yeah.
So all those extensions, a lot of money signed up there, were about 18 million. But one of the note ones, Tarasov, 1 year. That's another extension, and just a lot of depth pieces. Jeff Petrie, a name we've seen a lot. And look, Nolan Foote, interesting one. I think that could turn out really well.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
yeah. Look, honestly, he should have been playing in the NHL. I think a little bit earlier. He's decent. Just didn't work out at New Jersey, and they've had a few past New Jersey players in the depth that have won the cups with him.
They've
So
gone on to win the cup with them. Yep.
it might be reminiscent of last year and so on. So it might be the
Yep.
key. If Nolan Foote's playing, it might be the key.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see. The LA Kings, though, they have made a bit of a splash in free agency, making quite a few signings. So, look, the first of them is Joel Armia, 2 years at 2.5. Corey Perry, 1 year at 3.5. We know what he did in the Stanley Cup final, plus the playoffs as well. Cody Ceci, 4 years at 4.5. I mean, this bloke seems to just be everywhere, Cody Ceci, at the
Yeah,
moment.
he's hopped around,
Um,
hasn't he? Yeah.
yeah, he has. And then Brian Dumoulin at 3 years, 4 million. And Anton Forsberg at 2 years, 2.25 to obviously back up. Darcy Kemper.
Yeah,
That's their
I'm
goalie,
actually
right? Yeah.
forgetting who they have going
Yeah,
in
I
front.
know. I blanked then. I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty.
I'm
No,
so,
no,
I'm so I'm so
Kemper.
used to, like, I'm so old school. I was like, oh, it's Jonathan
No,
Quick,
no,
mate. No, but
no.
it's
I
not.
think Kemper went to
Oh,
Washington, didn't
look,
he?
we can quickly go to their team. It's Darcy Kemper there.
It is Darcy Kemper. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Dubois went to Washington. Kemper went to LA. Yeah. 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 We got it now. We're back on track. I had it right the first time. I just questioned myself for some stupid reason. But yeah, look, they've added some, obviously some depth defenders in Cody Ceci and Dumoulin, probably looking to play them, on the second line. And then obviously the backup goaltender, and then some sort of depth scoring in Corey Perry and Joel Armia sort of
Yeah.
comes through. I don't mind these signings for them.
No, they have
They
they had to change it up. And
Yeah,
look, they're
big time.
probably the first team out of the teams we've talked about that's retooling through free agency, and they almost have to, because they're kind of in win now mode. And instead of going and buying, a $11 million player type thing, they've gone and spent that on 5 players in a sense.
Yeah.
So, good little retool. They've got Scory Perry, which means they're going to make the cup final, but they're going to lose. So,
Make it
it's
make
got
it make it 6 in a row or something. Yeah.
nah, if anything, if Kings were going to win a cup, I'm glad that it would be with Corey Perry to break that. I think that would be beautiful to see.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but moving on, big signings here for Minnesota. Just one, Nico Sturm, 2 million, and by 2 years, 30 years old, pretty safe contract. Get your depth player. Yeah, don't overspend, and they're finally getting millions back, but they're not spending it all too crazy. So,
Yep.
but yeah, good depth piece there, in down the middle.
Yeah, it's quite funny. They get all that money back, but then they've got to go and sign. They had to sign obviously Brock Faber. They got Kaprizov coming up, so they don't want to sort of lock themselves up too much. You've got the Marco Rossi situation, so yeah, they get all that cap space back, but they're sort of hamstrung at the moment because
Yeah.
they got a few things they got to sort out. But I'm interested to see what they can do now. 15 million in the hole from the get go.
Yeah.
Moving on to Montreal. Nothing too crazy from them, which is obviously good to see. Young side, you don't want to see them too much cap on trying to improve themselves too much in free agency, especially with that young talent that they've got that they just continue to add to. Um, notable one is Capo Kakinen as a sort of backup goaltender,
I think it's a
which
good trade. Not trade, but signing.
good signing. Yeah, I mean, look,
Low
how many
risk,
games
and I
is he
think
going to play?
he could bounce. Like he could give you more value. Say if you bombed out, he could be a good trade deadline if it didn't work out.
Yeah, I mean, Montembeau played 62 games this season, so you know that he can play a large chunk if Capo Kakinen isn't up to scratch. So you don't really need to get a lot of games out of him, and we know Capo Kakinen can give you some good games as well.
Mm.
So with a reduced size, I think he'll be a decent pickup for them. Um, yeah,
All right, Nashville. For 2 years, 2.75 mil. We got Nick Perbix. You're right, D. They can be hard to get, so getting a depth right D, decent. Nashville, they're going for it, not overspending because they don't have too much to spend in that sense. So honestly, decent signing, and it's kind of what they need to shore up and hopefully stem some shots coming on Cyrus there.
yeah. Well, I mean, they everyone was talking about whether they would go the rebuild route after the failure of last season, which I thought, if you only give your team one chance after doing what they did and then go to rebuild, then that's one of the stupidest things I've ever seen. So I'm glad they're not going down the full rebuild mode, because why would you go out and get Stamkos and Marchessault and then give up on it a year later?
Yeah,
I'm glad they're running it back a little bit. I think, now that they've got a full season under their belt, add a extra training camp to that, they, I think they'll be a lot better this season than they were last season. It'll be interesting to see. But moving on to the New Jersey Devils, a big re-signing in Jake Allen, 5 years at 1.8. I was hearing some rumors around him getting, 4 million a year, 5 million on the free market.
yeah, which
And
is
he
right.
signs
Like
one of those.
he's signed 300,000 more than Vitek Vanacek, so who
Yeah.
sure he's a cup winner, but
But yeah, in terms of goaltending, I mean, yeah, you look at Jake Allen, the numbers that he put up last season for the Devils. I mean, he played 31 games. He had a .908 save percentage and 2.66 goals for with 4 shutouts. So, like, he could have gone and gotten himself a big payday, gotten 4 million, 5 million a year somewhere else, but he's chosen to stay with the Devils, which gives the Devils a good backup option, and obviously an option that they know they can depend on if Markstrom goes down. So yeah, great signing for the Devils there. Another one, Connor Brown from the Edmonton Oilers, 4 by $3 million. This one will be an interesting one, bit of a sort of middle six, sort of bottom six fill in there, Connor Brown. But obviously with his performance in the playoffs, it sort of drove his price up a little bit, I think. And yeah, I think he's a good depth piece for them. It'll just be a question on whether or not that's an overpay at $3 million. And then I think the big cheap signing that they got is the Evgeny Dandanov. Um, one year at $1 million for a bloke that put up 40 points last season. You don't see those too often, do you? Like a guy who's just put up 40 points running here. Like that's a pretty impressive deal, in my opinion. What are your thoughts, Jaden?
yeah, no, they've done really well. They needed depth. They need to shake up the depth, and that's what they've done. They still need more to shake up, but that relies on trading Hamilton and Palat to free up that cap. But moving on to the Islanders, the draft boys, a few key pieces here. Starting up, David Riddick, 1 year, 1 mil, a little backup goalie there. He's 32 years old. No risk there. And then you got 2 years by 4 million for Jonathan Drouin. He's your middle winger. Not too bad there. It's helping out. 2 years by
Oh,
three.
that's a great deal.
Mm,
That's a great deal, in my opinion. Like, this is a guy who can be injury prone, but he's putting up 37 points, 43 games, 56 points in 79 games. Like, he
yeah,
can he can be a great player in the right team.
he
Questions
he
that
is when
he'll
he's on the ice and not in the stands. Yeah.
exactly. The question is can he do it with the Islanders, given that they struggled to score?
Yeah. Then you got 2 years, 3.65 with Simon Holmstrom. Once again, another good depth piece there. It's an extension. I think that takes him to like a bridge deal to his RFA, being at 24. And then 1 year, 1.75 for Tony D'Angelo. Just another extension there on their D line. So look, they've done pretty well there. No big overpays. You got the draft picks hopefully coming in this year, next year, and no big terms. So look, they've done what they needed. Haven't done too bad there. And like you said, Jonathan Drouin's a pretty good pick and pretty low risk, high reward. You know, if he goes gangbuster and Islanders are out of the playoffs, there could be a lot
They're
of
going to
money at
get
the
a
trade
good.
deadline.
Exactly. Look, I rate every single one of these signings. The D'Angelo trade, we know what he can do and he's capable of, and he's a piece that you can move at the deadline. Holmstrom is young, up and coming, great sort of bridge deal to get him through to his last RFA years. And Jonathan Drouin, as you said, another piece that they can move at the deadline if they need to, because if the Islanders are terrible this year, it's not the worst thing. Because can you imagine them have Schaefer and then another high draft pick and then just hit the ground running with those other 2 first round picks that they got in this year's draft? They could go from sucking for a year to being, or sucking for 2 years to being a dynasty again for a while. Like their retool is just, yeah, it's going to be incredible how quickly they turn this around. Management thing.
All right, Rangers gone out and splashed a lot of money. Obviously, they signed Keandre Miller, who then they traded away. So that really doesn't go on the books.
Yeah,
But basically, that trade is Vladislav Gavrikov, 7 years, 7 million. Not not bad, but it's basically your Keandre Miller replacement there.
replacement. Yeah,
We did a video on that. Go check that one out on that trade. And then 2 years, 3.9 mil. Will Cooley, so 23 years old. That's an extension. It's a nice bridge deal. And look, it's interesting spot that New York Rangers in. They basically got some draft picks and a prospect for nothing because of replacing Miller with Gavrikov, and they get an interesting signing with Cooley. So I don't know. What are your thoughts? Could they have done better, or is it pretty good?
oh look, as we summed up in the Keandre Miller trade video, it is an interesting one. A guy who's 25 years old, reasonably dependable. I know he had a questionable season last season, but he's still a really good player. And then to obviously bring in Gavrikov, who's a bit older, you've now signed him for 7 years at 7 mil. That contract could sort of start to look a little bit shaky, although the cap is going up, which is probably what saves them. But yeah, I just don't know what direction the Rangers are going in. We said that in the video, but to me, it's going to be a wait and see. Does Gavrikov bring them a little bit extra than what Miller did, and does Morrow, who they picked up in the trade, does he come into the lineup and make any sort of impact? I think that's going to be the big thing to tell whether or not the Rangers are going to be any good this season. But if Gavrikov just provides what Miller does, they're supposed to be in win now mode, and I'm not sure that this really does that at the moment, but I guess it's just going to be a wait and see sort of thing.
Yep.
Um,
All right, Ottawa.
yeah,
Just the one signing. 36-year-old Lars Eller, 1 year, 1.25, low risk, depth piece. Honestly, not too
I
much
don't
to
really have
say.
cap.
Yeah, not
Yeah,
much
they
to
don't
say.
really have cap to do anything. So,
Yeah.
um,
So I guess we can just
yeah,
move on to Philadelphia, who did make a little bit of a splash. All free agent signings here. Starting at the top, we got Christian Dvorak, 1 year, 5.4. Dan Vladar, 2 years, 3.35. And that's your goalie. You
yep,
got pretty much just depth pieces after that. Look, 5 free agent signings, 5 depth pieces. Maybe besides Dvorak is the more middle six type area, but not too bad, and no real big overpays, and obviously the Dvorak's 1 year, so very no
Yeah.
risk.
And I think, they obviously made the Zegras trade,
Yeah,
but I feel like this is more of a, they know they're not going to be great this season. I can't see them being overly that fantastic, but maybe this is the season where, Dvorak puts up some good numbers. They can move him on the deadline, get some good pieces, to help sort of fast track this rebuild, retool thing that they've got going on. They obviously needed a goal, which they addressed. Is that going to be enough to sort of sway them in the opposite direction? I don't really think so, but I think if Philadelphia become competitive this year, it's going to sort of counteract what they need to do, and that's get some serious draft capital, and sort of get some good prospects through the door. So I hope that the Dvorak and the Vladar thing's more of just a um, trying to flip assets to help them down the track more than anything.
yep. All right, on to Pittsburgh. Just all depth signings here, a couple extensions. So pretty much Connor Dewar, 1 year extension, 1.1 mil. That's just your depth center there. 2 years, 1.5 mil with Brazo. Then you got 2 years, 1 mil with Witherspoon, and 1.75 1 year with Tomasino. So look, all depth, free agencies and signings there, and that's pretty much all they can do too until they move some big cap out,
Yeah,
if that
yeah.
happens.
I don't know. I don't know what they're doing, so I think we'll just leave Pittsburgh there.
What, just a big question
um,
mark? Okay.
exactly. So yeah, let's move on. San Jose Sharks. Big sort of signing here is the William Eklund bridge deal, 3 years at $5.6 million, which, I think. Would you like to have seen it be an 8-year deal? Just knowing that this kid is going to probably continue to get better. He's improving year to year. One of the big improvements, some people might not look at it that way, but I definitely do. I mean, he went from 45 to a -7, and he put up 58 points this season. So I probably don't like that deal just off the back of I would have rather paid him an 8x8, something along, and had him locked up for a long time, because I feel in 3 years' time he may be all of a sudden demanding an 11, $12 million contract if he keeps his trajectory going the way it's going. So yeah, a little bit questionable there, especially with the amount of money San Jose does have, and I get that they've got Marini and all that, but I have a feeling unless he didn't want to sign long term, an 8x8 contract would not age poorly with William Eklund.
Yeah.
But they also signed on John Klingberg, 1 year, 4 million. Adam Gaudette, 2 years, 2 million, and Philip Kurashev at 1 year, 1.2 million. Outside of that, it's pretty much just a few depth pieces. And yeah, I mean, William Eklund's probably the biggest news out of San Jose, I would say, Jaden.
Yeah, that's fair enough. The rest are pretty much depth signings, and no risk, no term on any of those signings either, even with Eklund. So moving on to Seattle, they make 2 signings, 1 year, 1 million for Matt Murray. No risk there. We'll see if Matt Murray can bounce his game back, being backup. And then 4 years, 4.5 for Ryan Lindgren. Decent contract there. He's only 27, and that's your middle defense sorted out. So no big huge splashes, but probably just the right things that Seattle need to do. But I don't know if these aren't the moves that will get you over the line. So
Well,
we'll have to
I
see.
feel like it's going to be, because Seattle's biggest problem last season was their backup goaltender.
Mm.
I think Grubauer gave them something like an 860 or something in net, and was something like a 719 and
Yeah,
It
for
was
the flaws of
ridiculous.
Matt Murray, I think pretty much any goaltender in the league is better than Grubauer.
Yes,
So
but if Matt Murray can provide anywhere near, just a reasonable backup, I think you could see this move actually put Seattle, as crazy as that sounds, you could see this move put Seattle in a position um to sort of compete for a wild card spot.
yep. All right. Going on to St. Louis, really just the one signing to talk about. 2 years, 1.75 for 32-year-old Nick Bjugstad. Some depth down center there for St. Louis, and look, they stay old in a lot of
Yeah.
respects. So they're still in that win now type of mode in a sense, retool win now. So decent signing, decent depth piece there. Onto Tampa Bay. I'll just go through these ones as there's not really too much to talk about here either. 2 years, 1.5 for Holmberg. So he's gone from Toronto. 1.2 mil extension for 2 years for Goncalves or Goncalves. I'm not really too sure how to say your name, but I want to say Goncalves because it sounds cooler. um, but they're pretty much the two pieces that Tampa's done there, and everything else is all depth pieces. And look, with the way the cap situation is and the picks they have, it's kind of what they have to do. Obviously, Tanner Jano gone, losing all that draft round for him. So we'll see what it means for Tampa Bay, but it doesn't look great. But they did make the playoffs this year, so
Mhm.
there is that.
Yeah, and they look dangerous at times. I thought
Yeah, they did.
most people's predictions for them to beat Florida and beat Florida easily was pretty stupid. I didn't quite understand that. I had Florida pegged to beat them. Um, I didn't quite understand why people were so confident that Tampa would steamroll Florida. To be honest, but they were a strong side. It does show you how
I,
broken the playoff
Vasilevsky
system
was
is.
hot at the time as well and stuff. Like I understand it, but
Yeah,
not to the way people thought they would trounce Florida. Yeah,
yeah.
I get your
That
point.
people were talking about a 5-game series against and it just didn't make any sense. But yeah, look, I still think Tampa's going to be strong and a hard team to beat. But yeah, the big question is going to be how much longer can they hold on for? And they don't really have anything coming to save them. So
Yep.
um, yeah, it'll be interesting.
All right, Toronto. I'll let you take it away.
Ah, yeah, thanks.
And that's Toronto.
Yeah, pretty much. Absolutely nothing. They have made zero free agency sort of trades. Uh, what more can you say? I don't think they really needed to. Free agency was never going to be the ultimate answer. So I don't hate it.
Well, they're in win now
Um,
mode, so I honestly felt like they had to do through free agency, and all the
but
big
they did
names
it
that
through
They
trades.
wanted, they didn't get because they were re-signed with
Yeah.
Florida.
But they also did it through trades as well. They obviously got Mateus through the trade. So I don't hate
It's
this.
not a bad off season, but
It could have been
it
better,
could have been better. Yes.
but at the same time, I look at it from a Toronto point of view. At least you didn't overpay. Like you could have overpaid and overpaid badly on some free
Made another
agency
core four.
play. Well, exactly. Imagine if they go and sign, Marchand for 8-9 million or was being spoken about, or Bennett for 10-11 being spoken about. I just think they've done a good job in not overspending in free agency while also doing a really good job in, they signed Matthew Nyes to 7.7, which is a really good contract. John Tavares at 4.38 is ridiculously team friendly. And then they pick up Mateus Michelli, plus they gain who'd they get back from Roy. So they got Roy from Vegas in replace for Mitch Marner. So all in all, I think as much as they haven't done anything in free agency, I still think they've had a fantastic day one. You just don't see it on the board in terms of free agent signings.
Yep. Well, that's been like that for a few of the teams we talked about. But on to Utah. We've got a couple signings here. 3 years, 3.5 million for Nate Schmidt, 33-year-old, plays both right and lefty. Good defensive signing there. 3 years, 2.5 million for Brandon Tanev, left wing, right wing. Once again, good, decent depth signing there. And then you've got 1 year, 1.5 million for a backup goaltender who just won a cup, Vitek Vanacek. And I don't really know about that one because I'm not too of a big Vanacek fan. He was really hot at New Jersey at one point, and then he fell off a cliff, and he hasn't really been able to climb that cliff. Granted, he won the cup, so maybe that cup experience means something, and he can maybe spread that around at Utah.
Oh, you only hope, right? Like, see what he brings. We know what he can bring. You know, he broke records in Jersey when he was there. Obviously something went wrong. Can he get back to being half that goaltender that he wants? Because that's all that they really need at the end of the day. If he
Yeah,
can be half of what he
he fell
was,
off the cliff
he
like a 36-year-old, but he's only 29. Like he's there's still
exactly.
plenty
So
of time for him to rebound in his career.
to rebound, yeah, 100%. But yeah, move on to Vancouver, and yeah, geez, I mean, no real big free agency splashes, but their re-signs were huge because the rumors going around on some of these players, you know, Besser was, looking like he was out the door. Then what does that mean for, your Quinn Hughes sort of thing? But they go and pick up, re-sign Brock Besser to 7 by 7.25, Connor Garland to 6 by 6, and Thatcher Demko, which was a massive one because there was a lot of talk about whether or not they moved Demko on, but he's re-signed at 3 by $8.5 million. So no big splashes, but Vancouver have made a statement here, basically saying that they're not going into rebuild mode just yet. And it could potentially mean that
they never do. Like as a Vancouver
yeah,
fan, they never do. Like if
no, they
you can
don't.
argue they
But,
should or they shouldn't, but they never do.
but I guess this is a big thing in keeping Quinn Hughes, right? Because if they lost Besser and they traded out Demko, you could probably say Quinn Hughes ain't sticking around. Quinn Hughes is going to be straight off the bat, get me out of here. I see out my 2 years. I'm going to go play with my
They should
brothers
have
now.
traded him this offseason. It's his best.
I still think they
It's
should
it's
trade him.
best value that you can get
I
right
still
now.
think they should trade him. I agree with you. Because if he's made it clear that he's going to go play with his brothers, he's going to New Jersey at the end of his contract. So get something whilst you can, especially whilst he's, one of the best players in the NHL. But at the same time, do you mind Vancouver sitting here going, no, we've got a chance to win up. We went to the conference final only 2 years ago. So maybe they're going to go hard for it, try and win themselves a cup before losing Quinn.
Yeah, well, you're in a 2-year clock maximum. 1 year clock if it all falls apart, and you might just request a trade at the end of the season. So it's risk if they don't trade him this season. I'm just going to go to the top, resort the teams just so we can see there. And then we'll move on to Vegas Golden Knights. Pretty much nothing here, just some depth piece signings. And that's pretty much it. Just Reinhardt, Coughlin, and Megna, all under $1 million. And signings there, just depth pieces. They got no cap. They just spent it all on one man and Marner. So
they got their man. So
yeah, they got
important
their
part.
man. And that was not via free agency on opening day.
Trade and sign.
Martin Fehervari.
Faravari.
Faravari, always struggle. 7 years, 6 million, left defender. You know, you get a good extension there. Doesn't get all 8, but going to take him to 32. Decent. That's going to age like fine wine when the cap goes up as well. So Washington
Especially
doing
because
the
he's
right
a
things there.
defensive defenseman as well. Like
Someone who plays
he's solid.
defense as a defender. Oh my god!
Ah,
Imagine.
I know.
Imagine.
They are a dime a dozen these days,
It
mate.
really is. It's a rare breed.
Everyone wants to put up big points, and it's like Jacob Slavin getting undervalued because he doesn't put up massive points when he is one of the best, if not the best defender in the league.
Yeah, but they don't get you the big contracts. Like
No,
that's the problem, and you got to be a forward playing on the D line to get the big contracts. And William Carlson and all that have said that, so like stated that in regards to their contracts. So yeah, it is what it is. I don't like it. I'm a old school man who likes a two-way D.
Defenders play defense.
Yeah, it's like Steve Dangles, when you're a goaltender, tend the goal, or you're a defender, defend the blue line. Like,
Yeah.
But yeah,
exactly.
So yes, but
all right.
last
Moving
team,
on to the
Winnipeg.
last team.
You go through it, mate.
Oh, look, not too much to going on here. Just a couple of depth pieces in Tanner Pearson at 1 by 1 mil. Di Giuseppe at 1 by 775. So nothing major, but the big one, which we've known about forever. They had this pretty much lined up for a few weeks now. But Jonathan Tays, 1 year, $2 million contract, which has a potential to be a $7 million contract. Yeah, Jonathan Tays, 3-time Stanley Cup winner, Chicago Blackhawks legend, probably going in the Hall of Fame. He's back. He's had a few years off, and he's come back, and he's gone to Winnipeg.
Yeah,
it's a massive deal. And if Jonathan Tays has his body right, it could be absolutely massive for the Winnipeg Jets, because Jonathan Tays in his prime, and obviously this was when he wasn't 37, but in his prime was one of the best players, best two-way players in the game.
I'm pretty sure he's good in the face-off circle as well. So it adds
he's a gun.
It adds that on your depth, so you don't have to rely on one or two players. You can throw him out there and win a face-off, 50-something% of the time. Yeah, it's a great signing, low risk. Obviously, they're in win now mode. They were pretty much the best team in the regular season. Didn't work out in the playoffs, and a signing like Taves, really, I feel like makes you better for the playoffs. They get a couple other smaller ones, Tanner Pearson, Koepke, just depth pieces that they're filling out their roster in, and that for a win now team, that's kind of what you need to do. But really good signing in Taves, even if he plays 30 games, 40 games for the season through because of other injuries.
Well, if you can carry him to playoffs, he could be he's a playoff performer. He was huge for the Blackhawks in their cup wins. So yeah, look, I think,
and he brings that experience to these players that have
exactly
been struggling to get over the hump, in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, Winnipeg made inroads last season by getting through to the second round. Can he be that player that sort of, might not put up the 82 game season, but he plays half a season and he's geared and ready to go and got his groove back come playoffs. So he could be massive for them. For what it is, I think it's a really underrated signing. And I hope he comes back and absolutely smashes it, because he was an absolute joy to watch in his prime. And I was kind of disappointed with the way his career sort of ended, and his downfall. So I love the fact that he's back, and I'm keen to watch him.
All right, we'll end it there. So on your screen, your biggest signings and extensions, majority of them extensions, by the top 10 anyway. And look, this is just first day free agent signings and extensions. Obviously, teams have been doing trades and stuff to bolster their teams. But check out a Kendry Miller trade video. We've just posted that one, and then go and check out our other content. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below and tune into more content. Till next time, guys. We'll catch you.
See you.